Alrighty, next video. This is the exercise for the Riemann sums. And one of the reasons that we do Riemann sums is that occasionally we'll have a formula you cannot take the antiderivative of. And so if you look at this formula that we have here, we don't have any rules where we're taking antiderivatives where t is the exponent. Remember, the only one that we learned was e to the exponent. We've not learned 2 to the exponent, 7 to the exponent, something like that. They're similar, but they are different. So we're going to have to do the Riemann sum to estimate this one. So let's go to our Excel. Okay, so by A, B, N, and delta. And before we start typing, now we are told those, right? Part A from t equals 2 to 10. So we are told those. And 25 rectangles. So the B minus the A divided by the N. And we get a little decimal there. So remember, you can copy and paste however you want to. I'm going to keep trying that something or other. I don't know what. Okay, x's. The first x is always the a value. And the next x is that previous one plus my delta. Now, I didn't change my decimal places, so I am using a cell reference here. So remember, if you do that, hit the F4 to lock it in, or type those dollar signs where you see them there, because otherwise it'll add the wrong thing. And I'm going to go ahead and put it down there because of the other video. And my f of x, so what do we have here? Oops, that's not right. Another zero? No, another 5. 255,000, 3 zeros, times to the power of my x, and then divided by to the power of, who made up these weird formulas? Okay, so double check, a lot of typing there. So 255,000 times raised to the power of cell reference divided by that raised to the power of plus 10240. All of that squared. Looks good. Really tiny little things right there. So copy and paste. Let's, if I copy this, I'm going to copy the 3 all the way down, and it won't count to the 25. So remember, don't use the first one because that first x is static. It doesn't have a cell reference. So you get a 2 every other time like we did on that first video. So that's why I did 3. So drag and drop all the way down to the 25 right there. And remember, double check your last x is a single delta less than b. So it looks pretty good. It doesn't always identify the mistakes, but that's one thing that should be obvious. Okay, and I'm going to put this at the top just so we can see it. Equals all of the f's, like that. So my Riemann sum is that sum of all of the f's times my delta right there. And double check the units. So these are just zombies with gingivitis, so they're not in we're not switching the units from one to the next there. So that's the answer to part A. Now we want to write a single sentence to describe that, and let's see if I can type that instead of having to handwrite it. So we need to, now ultimately we are evaluating the function. So when we evaluate the function, we have we're describing the input and the output. We're not describing a rate, so we don't have that 5 fill in the blank. We're not describing a marginal, so we don't have an estimate of the next thing like that. So let's see, what do we have? So this is going to be okay, let's go back and look at the Word document. So how do you know how to describe this? Well, one of the things is in this class, The functions we're given to take antiderivatives of are going to be derivatives. So that n prime right there is telling me derivative. So my derivative is a rate, so I've got zombies per year. When we do the antiderivative, we always go back to the part before the per. So this is, and it's always a total. So we go from the rate to the original thing, so it's the total number of zombies. Okay, so that could help in figuring out how to write that. So the total number of zombies with gingivitis, we need to describe our input. So our input values, A was 2, B was 10, and that's the years since the start of 1970. You could actually put from the start of 1972 to the start of 1980 or something to indicate that. It doesn't include 1980, so be careful about the wording. It might include it, but in this case, we are only going from the beginning of 1972 up to the beginning of 1980 is, so let's take a look at this again. Is it 5.23? Let's look at the units. 100,000 zombies. So make sure you either use that phrase or times, use your little fancy Excel to multiply it out. And round. However, that crazy instructor wants you to round 4 decimals or 1 decimal or whatever it says. Okay, so there we go. We've described what we did without any fancy math words. So we didn't say the Riemann sum is the number of zombies. We just said there's 523,000 something zombies from 1972 to 1980. Something like that. No, exactly like that. Not something, but exactly like that.